Hey guys, big thanks to the Cartoon Amino app for supporting this video. It's a mobile community for cartoon fans filled with lists, theories, fun GIFs, and best of all, it's totally free. So, check it out. Yep, Pez still tastes like chalky medicine. And I was looking so forward to trying out my Elsa dispenser.
What a bummer.
Gordon Skellingbones. I wish I could say it was nice to see you. Let me guess, you're here to make me watch some absurdly terrible knockoff movie again.
You're absolutely correct.
The Snow Queen? Ugh, what is this, some kind of terrible Frozen ripoff?
Well, it actually came out 1 year before Frozen in Russia. It's based on the same Hans Christian Andersen story, but judging by the cover, it's probably pretty terrible. Oh, I do slay myself.
Okay, well, before we get started, I fear I may need a drink for this one. Vodka soda should do the trick. Hey, not bad. Alright, folks, let's see what we're in for. Wow, that was actually pretty good.
What?
Yeah, I think I kind of liked it. Let's go back and rewind to the very beginning. Okay, so let's go back to the original Hans Christian Andersen story of the same name. Admittedly, I don't know much about it, but based on a brief summary, this movie seems far closer an adaptation of that when compared to Frozen. But it's worth noting that this story has seen many animated adaptations over the years, varying in quality. And a lot of them you can find right here on YouTube just by searching for the name.
Can I go with you? I love to sled.
No! Leave me alone!
But we always sled together. I don't fall. I'm a good sledder. I'm a good sledder. I'm a good sledder.
I'm a good sledder.
But we are here to talk about this 2012 version. So our story starts with a bit of narration where we learn about the world being frozen over by the Snow Queen, who imposed her will across the lands, and the only ones who could stand up against her were called wizards, although they seem more like alchemists or inventors or something. Anyways, the witch decides to hunt down all of the wizards and freeze them in ice, and thus the wizards are all but extinct. But the two offspring of the last remaining wizard had escaped the witch's grasp, and thus the story begins. So we flash forward a few years and reconnect with the first of the two kids, Kai, who we learn is a talented artist. And as we meet him, he's visiting an antique store with this very curious shopkeeper who immediately falls off her ladder and rushes to put makeup on as if she's terrified to be seen without it. Now take note of this shopkeeper. She's the first of many quirky and bizarre supporting characters, which is one of my favorite things about this movie. Don't worry, we'll touch more on that later. She gives Kai a box of paints, which apparently are a pretty rare commodity in this world, as any artistic forms of expression are strictly forbidden.
The last thing I would ever want to happen is for you to get in trouble.
Now, you'll notice immediately that the lip syncing looks pretty bad. However, because the film was originally in Russian, it's to be expected as it's dubbed to English, and the English voice cast is pretty solid. So let's go meet the other child. Here we have Gerda and her sassy weasel sidekick Luta. She lives in an orphanage, but it's not just any orphanage. It's a sweatshop orphanage. But never you fear, friends. As Gerda slaves away making leather mittens, Luta will sneak in and give her some much-needed friendly company. The old mitten form up the weasel's ass gag. One of the time-tested classic gags of comedy. So next, Gerda journeys down to the coal cellar looking for her lost weasel and stumbles across Kai, who is new to the orphanage. Of course, they don't know they're siblings yet.
Don't think I've seen you here before. Are you new?
So now it's time for the plot to thicken a bit. let's meet the Snow Queen herself. She's pretty much your standard evil, power-hungry villain, and she's starting to sense that the last wizard's child is still out there, because she thinks there's only one. So she sends her loyal but strange troll Orm to hunt him down and bring him back. Interesting thing is, Orm, though he seems like a pretty standard bumbling henchman, actually has a pretty cool character arc as the story goes. But for now, he's kind of in henchman mode, and using his ability to transform into a weasel, he's off to kidnap Kai and bring him back to the Queen. But in the process, he accidentally glimpses into Gerda's mirror, and it reveals his true troll self. We saw the younger Gerda come by this mirror in the original flashback, and it actually saves the two kids from the Snow Queen's creepy minion. These magic mirrors are one of the weapons the wizards used against the witch. Seems like you should have made more of those. Maybe put one on your front door. I don't know, just a thought. Anyways, amidst all the chaos, Orm tries to use a magical spell to transport he and Kai back to the Queen, but Gerda and Luta stop him, sending Kai all by himself to the Queen and leaving Gerda and Orm stranded in a snowy and desolate land. Now here's where things get interesting. For the next about 40 minutes of the film, it almost morphs into this kind of buddy road trip movie with Gerda and Orm as they try to make their way to the Queen's palace to save Kai. There are a few in-between scenes of Kai as he deals with his imprisonment with the Queen, but those are kind of boring, which is hilarious because this kid who is meant to be one of the protagonists spends most of the movie lying frozen on the ground, while this weird troll character is actually the male lead. So this whole kind of road trip part of the movie is really fascinating to me. The main plot doesn't really advance too much. For about 45 minutes, Gerda and Orm just kind of go from place to place and meet all of these bizarre characters along the way, and this results in a very, very simple plot. Point A to point B. And I've got to say, I kind of enjoyed the simplicity of it, because it could focus on these weird side characters and develop the main two characters.
Okay, where did you send Kai? And if you don't tell me, I'll smack you again.
Ouch! It wasn't me. It's the North Wind. It's taking him to the Snow Queen.
Now, towards the end, we'll talk much more about Frozen, but one of the reasons I enjoyed it a bit less was because there were lots of weird plot aspects that really didn't seem to connect and flow. And months later, after Frozen was released, I saw that many others across the internet had that same issue with it. Now, before you light your torches, I'm not trying to say that The Snow Queen is better than Frozen, but simply that it's something very, very different. So let's get back to the beginning of the adventure. First, they find themselves at a giant greenhouse in the middle of the ice, all overseen by this very creepy lady.
Truth is, I can't bear to see you go hungry in this freezing weather, my dear. Come in.
She sees that her flowers tend to bloom and grow in the presence of Gerda, so naturally, she tries to keep her there forever. And it's this creepy flower lady's voice that kind of made me wish I was watching the Russian version.
I just can't let you go without making sure you have another cup of my delicious tea. Another cup of my delicious tea. Another cup of my delicious tea.
Now, of course, Orm and Gerda have to continue on their adventure and leave the greenhouse, but the creepy flower lady isn't having it. So as they try to escape, she chases them while riding on a giant Venus flytrap. It's actually pretty cool. Next up, they stumble across an old troll cave and Orm is reminded of his past. He tells Gerda about how his whole species turned against each other and wiped themselves out in a bloody war, all influenced by the Snow Queen, and how he is the sole survivor, and this whole scene is also animated in a different, more 2D style, which is pretty cool. We also learn how Orm became the Queen's helper, but in reality he was really just her slave, and she did not treat him very nicely.
And the castle will have a long-nosed ice statue in its collection.
It was actually Gerda who first treated him with kindness. He also offhandedly mentions that he was once able to not only transform into a weasel, but into a giant bear. But Gerda doesn't believe him, and I'm sure that will not come in handy later on. So onward they move and stumble across a beautiful castle. Looks like now we're getting a bit closer to that traditional fairy tale story. Maybe there'll even be a handsome prince inside that Gerda can fall in love with. Nope, just this guy. A king who went crazy after the death of his wife and is not allowed within 10 paces of his own children, and they live in the same castle. So how do they reconcile this? Well, by splitting the castle in half. The kids' half and the king's half. And when I say split in half, I mean literally, they cut the place down the middle. The stairs, the windows, the tables, and apparently the king's new prisoner, Gerda.
What we need to do is divide her vertically, not horizontally. That way each of us gets an equal half of the girl, and everyone's happy.
He's trying to take advantage of us again.
So they get themselves out of that little pickle, and next they find themselves ambushed by pirates and taken back to their ship, which is super cool looking. Because the water has all been frozen, their pirate ship is basically stuck in place and coated with ice. Actually, all the locales in this film are really impressive and creative. Back to the pirates, Gerda and Orm find themselves yet again taken prisoner by this pirate woman and her rambunctious daughter, and I think I recognize her from the movie poster.
No, but seriously, why is this girl on the cover of the movie? She literally appears for 3 minutes total.
Not only does this character appear randomly on the cover and get next to no screen time, but if you can believe it, she's actually more strange than any character we've met thus far.
What's your name?
Gerda, I'm searching for...
Gerda, I like it. I'm gonna take that name. Hey, you. Are you trying to be clever with me? I'm Gerda.
I like your name. That's gonna be my name now. Makes sense. So Gerda is able to convince the pirates to let them go, assuring them that she will restore the seas so that they can pirate once again. And with a quick stop to a random fortune teller lady, Orm and Gerda are off to face the Snow Queen, who we learn was a nice girl who was shunned for her magic usage, and through her isolation and resentment became the bitter Snow Queen. And we also learned that her name was Elsa.
Her name was Irma.
Irma, yeah, Irma. I said Irma, right? And within just a few steps into the palace, we already see the Snow Queen's creepy minions launching an attack. And with that, the final battle is underway. Not only do we discover that Kai is dead, rest in peace, nobody cares, but we also see Orm finally have to choose between his master and his new friend.
You hear that, Gerda? This here troll, he betrayed you.
And of course, he chooses Gerda. Unfortunately, he also sacrifices his life for her so that she can escape. Just kidding. Right in the nick of time, Orm pulls out his bear form and lays the smackdown all over Irma's minions. I mean, sure, let's go back to Frozen. Elsa may have a snow giant, but Irma's ice giants are way cooler. Plus, she's got these creeper ice ghouls and whatever the hell this nightmarish frostworm is. In the end, Gerda is able to use her magic mirror to defeat the Ice Witch and revert her back to her original, more innocent form. Kai is brought back to life, and that's really where the story comes to a close. So the movie's not half bad after all. But how can we begin to weigh this film against Frozen? Well, you really can't, or rather I should say, you shouldn't. And here's why. The budget for The Snow Queen was $7 million. The budget for Frozen was $150 million. Just for a bit of perspective. So what The Snow Queen was able to achieve with that budget, it's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, Idina Menzel's low-fat Greek yogurt budget was more than the entire budget of The Snow Queen. Frozen itself has memorable songs, stellar voice work, and has really emerged as a classic Disney movie in our culture, so I genuinely can't really compare these movies against each other. All I'm going to say is, you should give The Snow Queen a shot. It's much different than most animated films we've got in theaters here in the States, and I for one enjoyed that change of pace. Despite its budget, its actual animation is on par with some things that have double the budget. In the end, I'm happy both The Snow Queen and Frozen exist. I can't say The Snow Queen is a game-changing and amazing movie, but it's still too bad that it had to have this terrible poster here in America. Oh, did I forget to mention that? Yeah, this is only the poster for the US release. This is the real poster for the movie. Yeah, it's an actual poster. But us Americans, well, we got this. Causing this movie to be perceived as a cheap Frozen knockoff, when in reality, it's anything but.
So, that about does it. A bit of an unexpected twist in this episode. Skellingbones, what are you still doing here?
I don't know, I thought maybe you and I could, hang out.
I don't think so. It's, time for you to go.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Please don't.
It doesn't have to be a snowman.
I know that, but the thing is, I don't want to build anything with you.
Not even this cool Wing Gundam Zero model?
Okay.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, help me share it with more people who might enjoy it by clicking that like button. And if you want to see more knockoff style reviews from me, you can click right here to watch my review of a very terrible knockoff Aladdin movie, or you can click right here to see my review of Santa vs. the Snowman.